Well, hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jessica Leichtweisz, and I'm the CEO of Hope Education Services. Parents send me in questions all the time, asking questions that I'm not really qualified to answer. So I brought on today a developmental pediatrician who can get your questions answered, which is a special treat. Dr. Robles, thank you so much for coming on today and really just giving time to answer questions that parents have been sending in.
Hello, well, you're very welcome. I am happy to answer any questions you have today.
Awesome. And we are just super grateful. So parents, many parents are waiting to see a developmental pediatrician. So they know how busy you are and you're just generously giving your time. So we are super, super grateful. So one of the number one questions I get from parents is really, how do I know if my toddler is exhibiting signs of autism? Maybe they're not talking, maybe they're hand flapping. When is that a concern? When is it typical for children to develop language late? When is it typical for them to be running around? And when is it a cause for concern? So what are some of the true red flags that parents need to look out for to know when it's appropriate to make an appointment with a developmental pediatrician?
It's a great question. So I have known parents that start to notice there's a difference even when the child is about 12 months old. They feel like they can't get some of that social smile or the response that they would typically expect at that time. Then, several months later, usually around 16 months old, it starts to become more apparent. That's more of a challenge. And then you start to see, around that 15-month visit where you see your pediatrician, and closer to 18 months especially, where you're filling out these questionnaires and you're seeing that, oh, my child may not be talking like they should be, or maybe they're not trying to communicate in other ways with me. One thing that they should be starting around that 15 to 18-month age is pointing. That's a big thing, or using other gestures. Even if their speech is behind, they're going to start to try to want to communicate with you with those other gestures or nonverbal cues. So trying to share things with you, or just trying to engage with you, responding when you call their name, and looking at you when you do so. Those are some of those early things that we really start to see at that point. That's a really typical age for that. So that's around the age, again, usually where you check in with your pediatrician for those well-child visits, and you would fill out those questionnaires most of the time. And the pediatrician would score them, and you talk to them about what your concerns might be as well. If you filled it out, you said, hey, my child isn't doing some of these things. And at that point, the pediatrician usually would then say, okay, maybe we need to refer to that specialist, the developmental pediatrician, or maybe we need to refer to this early intervention program where they can also assess and see if there's something else we can do in the meantime as we're waiting for that developmental pediatrician, since sometimes our visits are booked out for several months. So those are the things that we usually see first, and we want to catch it as early as we can. So if you start to see those things, raise it to your pediatrician as a concern, because it doesn't hurt. If anything, the earlier, the better.
Yeah, and one of the things, and I know this is probably a sensitive question, but one of the things that parents often say, and sometimes even the child's in early intervention, they're getting services, but their pediatrician just dismisses them. And they say like, well, they're not old enough, and let's just give it another year. But we know another year is really critical. And as much as we would like to not wish this didn't happen, it does tend to happen more for children that are in families of a lower socioeconomic status, living in urban areas, where they're just dismissed by their pediatrician and they don't get that referral. Do you recommend parents are persistent? If they think their child's missing red flags, maybe they're 15 months old, they're not imitating, they're not doing peekaboo, they're not responding to their name. And, if their pediatrician is saying, well, we'll just give it another year. Do you think it's appropriate to wait another year? Or do you think a parent should be more persistent or find someone that would really take their concerns seriously?
I absolutely think that a parent knows their child best, and we always have to listen to that parent. So unfortunately, it does happen sometimes where, a pediatrician or just a provider will say, let's give it more time, oh, we just need to wait a little bit longer. But I would say go with your gut, be persistent, keep pushing for that. And if you have to self-refer to early intervention, which usually you are able to do, you can do that. But I would really be persistent. If you are still hitting a wall with your pediatrician, Other times I've had parents get another opinion or, see a different pediatrician that they feel listens to them more. And then when that happens, usually they are right and we are able to connect them with those services, but don't just brush it off. Don't keep waiting because like I said, the earlier we can help, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really great advice. And I think everyone, all pediatricians would hopefully, and all parents, everyone has the best interest at heart, but really just trusting your gut as a parent and knowing that, like you said, if I were to go and get a diagnosis tomorrow of my own personal health issues, and let's say a doctor ordered surgery, I probably would want a second opinion. So it's okay to do the same thing for your child, just like you would do that for you. But thank you so much, Dr. Robles, for sharing this. This is so helpful. With parents, if you have a question and you want to get your question answered, I love to help. If I can help, as you can see, I tend to bring on someone who can. Head over to my website, getautismanswers.com, and I'll do my best to get your question answered.